Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Jack and Keith's weekend playbook. We got a bunch of sports to talk about as always. And before we do that, we'll welcome into my co-host, Boxing Hall of Fame writer, Michael Spink's biographer, Jack Hirsch. Good morning, Jack. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Keith.
I had a little different way we went into Facebook today, so I hope we're live, guys. If somebody can let me know at some point, I'd appreciate it. Lots to talk about. I mean, Jack said it. We're kind of in a lull. We were talking before the show. There's lots of sports going on, but with all these teams in the races and in Major League Baseball, it's hard to focus in one area. The NFL's kind of in the middle of training camp and cut downs. We're going to talk about that first. We get signings in the NBA, but it won't be long, Jack, and we're going to have lots to talk about because the NFL is going to dominate everything.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2-3 weeks away from the NFL season beginning. In baseball, it's a big log jam with a bunch of teams for playoff position. And we still have about 6 weeks of the baseball season to go. So, I mean, we kind of have to pace ourselves, Keith, as far as sports goes. I mean, as far as talking about it. Otherwise, we'll be talking about the same thing week after week.
Well, we almost do, it feels like, but you have to because the same stories are there week after week. And let's start in the NFL because we're getting in. I think we're to the second exhibition game. There's only one more after this. Teams have got to start figuring things out. There's some big names that are kind of on the cut line. One that's close to me, as you always bring up, Will Levis is fighting for a job in Tennessee, maybe get cut or traded. Anthony Richardson's on the cut list. The Jets have a decision to make it with their practice squad quarterback.
He's not on the cut list, Anthony Richardson. The question is whether he's going to be the primary backup to Daniel Jones or whether he's going to be third string and lose this backup job to Riley Leonard. But he's not going to get cut. Anthony Richardson is going to get picked up by another team quickly if he did get cut.
Cut or traded. So I'll amend my statement.
Keith, he's not sweating it out.
Why we focus on Anthony Richardson? Thank you for that. Starting with Will Levis.
Making it out like he's going to be on the unemployment list. Anthony Richardson.
Well, no, he's already made life-changing money. If he's smart, he doesn't have to work again. So this guy's let's take it from this situation. Is Anthony Richardson better off on the Colts or somewhere else?
Somewhere else. He doesn't have a real future with the Colts unless Daniel Jones gets hurt. He's the primary backup and he gets in and plays well. You never know how a guy could revive his career because if you look at the starters in the NFL now, a number of guys revive their career. It's easy to forget.
This was my question. Does he feel like one of those guys like Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones or Baker Mayfield
revive their careers,
that will go somewhere else, get a breath of fresh air in a different system and revive his career? He doesn't feel that way to me because he's never shown any flashes.
You could throw Kirk Cousins' name in that mix.
Kirk Cousins is another one. Sure.
Anthony Richardson never established himself as a good NFL starter. Baker Mayfield did at Cleveland to a degree for sure. Kirk Cousins certainly did, show he was a really good quarterback. Sam Darnold, was kind of iffy with the Jets. But whenever a guy is a very high draft choice, Keith, he's always going to find a home for years and years. I mean, look at Zach Wilson. He's battling for backup position with the New Orleans Saints. And had Zach Wilson not been the number 2 overall pick in the draft by the Jets, let's say hypothetically, Zach Wilson was a 6th-round draft selection.
Yeah.
The chances are Zach Wilson would be out of the league.
Listen, I can make an argument the other way. Same with Daniel Jones, that part of Zach Wilson's problem was that he was drafted too high and didn't get a chance to develop in the NFL. He may have been a better quarterback getting drafted later and not having expectations thrown on him in New York City. So,
franchises are different. Most of them are now in a win-now mode. Some of them are going to be patient, like the Tennessee Titans with Cam Ward. He's starting, he's playing, he's making mistakes, but they're being very patient. They're willing to give him 3-4 years or whatever because they believe he could be an elite quarterback. The danger with that is If you give a guy all this time to develop, you give him a couple of years, and then you see after a couple of years, he's not that good. You wasted your time. Case in point, the Chicago Bears with Mitch Trubisky. They kept sticking with Mitch Trubisky, and it got to the point he just wasn't that good, and they eventually moved on from him. And I don't want to say they wasted their time, but they overestimated his potential.
Most likely that's true. Two guys. So I mentioned two guys so far, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. If you're a team that wants to try to catch lightning in a bottle, which guy do you chase? I like, you know what I'm going to say. I like Will Levis.
You like Will Levis. To me, it's a hard one. It's really a hard one. Anthony Richardson has all this talent, all this potential, but I like to use the line that the great Gil Hodges used with Nolan Ryan. When Nolan Ryan was a flamethrower with the Mets, he was struggling. They asked him how good Nolan Ryan could be, and he said, some guys have potential their whole lives. They finally have to do it. Nolan Ryan did do it. He fulfilled his potential and then some. It's a hard one. I mean, that's a great question, Keith. Will Levis to Anthony Richardson, if you could pick up one off waivers, which one has more long-range potential? Anthony Richardson gets injured. Will Levis was hurt himself, but it's a tough one.
It is a good one. I like it a lot.
Yeah, good question.
And there's other quarterback situations to be resolved as well. The Raiders still haven't made a decision on their competition, which I know you're not crazy about competitions.
No, it's not a competition. Kirk Cousins is the starter. The Raiders established that in the beginning. They haven't officially announced it, but everyone knows that. Everybody. It's not an open competition.
You think the coach again? Mendoza got a break last week when he got to play when he may not have because of Cousins being unavailable.
Mendoza will be the starter at some point, without a doubt. And chances are it's going to be this season. That's the plan, to get him ready this season, just not by opening game. Mendoza struggled last night in the exhibition game. I mean, against the Houston Texans, he threw a pick six. I hate pick sixes. I mean,
that's
I hate
the
him
worst
with a passion. Oh, that's awful. And he struggled. He had the ball on 5 possessions and only got 1 field goal in 5 possessions against Houston's second string team. That's bad. That's bad. But the good thing is Mendoza's not starting opening game. So there's time to develop him, time to see how he comes along. But I got to tell you this. I can't believe the Raiders' plan is to have Mendoza sit the whole season and not really fast track him this year. Because if that were the case, if they were planning to sit Mendoza the whole season, why did they even draft him? Because we know, Keith, next season, next draft, there are going to be a number of really good quarterbacks coming out of college. And the Raiders, in all likelihood, are going to get to pick high and be in position to draft one of them. So how on earth can the Raiders draft a quarterback in the first round next year? It would make no sense. But
even if he played badly, you're not going to decide he's terrible and draft another quarterback.
You see, this is where I disagree with you and the thought process of the NFL. If I draft Mendoza with the first overall pick and I come to the conclusion he's just not that good, he's okay, but not that good, and I can get one of the elite college quarterbacks coming out who I'm very high on. Let's say I have the first overall pick. Let's say LaVarch Manning. He's there for me. Or better yet, Trinidad Chambliss. He's there for me. Or you like Dante Moore. Or whoever else. There are a few other guys I can name. You cut your losses or what? Do you tell yourself, no, I'm sticking with Mendoza? I look at it as a bad investment. I keep Mendoza on the roster. I draft the elite college quarterback again and work it out.
You set your franchise back a decade. You draft 2 quarterbacks back to back, and none of them work out.
The franchise is in bad shape as it is, Keith, because you're picking at the top of the draft.
If you were to pick 2 quarterbacks back to back, you could potentially set that quarterback or that team back another decade.
The
That's what
team
could happen.
is back already.
Again,
you want
another
the team
decade.
to go, but you'd be bypassing the chance of maybe getting the lead quarterback. They're seeing Mendoza up close and personal, the Raiders. He's an NFL player now. It's a different ball game from college. It's a much quicker game. Let's see how good he really, really is. Sometimes teams invest in a certain position, and even though a better player comes along, they're scared to reinvest in the position. But quarterback, if you're the Raiders, and let's say you have the worst record in the NFL again, and one college quarterback looks like he can't miss, if you could get the next Joe Burrow or Josh Allen, for example, you mean to tell me you're not going to draft them out of college because you drafted Fernando Mendoza the year before? Unless you're confident Mendoza is your guy going forward. No. That's different. That's much different if that's the case.
I can tell you something. If that's the case, guys who are making those picks aren't keeping their jobs for very long because they made a very bad pick picking him number one. I wasn't in favor of that anyway, by the way. Mendoza's a work in process.
It was a weak quarterback draft. If Mendoza was coming out in a top-heavy quarterback draft, I don't know how he'd be rated. I don't think he'd be rated nearly as high. Sometimes teams make a mistake. They pick the best available college players, not because they're that good. I'm talking about a quarterback. It's because because Mendoza was the best college quarterback available, so that made him so appealing to the Raiders. But maybe they should have sat down and thought, maybe he's not that good after all. And I'm not saying that's the case. This isn't my opinion here. This isn't my opinion because I think Mendoza is going to be a decent quarterback. I have doubts whether he's going to be elite. I have real doubts about that. But I think I think when all's said and done, if you develop him, he will be a decent quarterback. I think he's a winner.
Yeah, but again, you just use the word develop him, but you're ready to give up on him after 1 year if he doesn't perform.
No, I mean, if the Raiders came to that conclusion, if they played him this season and he was struggling, let's say he was the next Zach Wilson, for example, and you had a chance to re-pick a quarterback, are you going to continue investing in the guy by not drafting a better player, your future quarterback? Sometimes it's best come to the conclusion the guy was with you a year, he wasn't as good. Listen, it happens in baseball all the time. Think of all the teams who have a number one overall draft choice, Keith, who never make it to the major leagues. They don't put them on a major league roster, to confirm that they made the right pick.
No, I agree. And I think because it takes time to develop. I'm sitting here thinking of all the quarterbacks that never may have made it with your angle. Peyton Manning was god-awful in his first year. What if they decided he wasn't going to be any good and drafted another quarterback?
They knew how great he was at Tennessee. I mean, come on. I mean, and they listen, if it's a learning curve and you know the guy's getting experience, that's fine. You stick with them. You develop them. Absolutely 100%. But if you see the guy day in and day out at practice and you see he doesn't have a great deal of upside going forward, and you come to the conclusion he's really not that good, okay? You have to project how someone's going to be in 2-3 years. Like your guy, Bill Belichick. He came to the conclusion, he projected Tom Brady's actually going to be better than Drew Bledsoe. He's better than him right now. He came to that conclusion. Someone else might say, well, you can't move on from Bledsoe. He's the perennial starter. It's a terrible move, highest paid quarterback. Sometimes you have to make a real gutsy decision.
Well, that's easy to say because he wasn't moving on from Drew Bledsoe until Drew Bledsoe almost got killed on a football field. He wasn't moving on. Brady was already better.
But when Bledsoe was able to play again and be ready for the playoffs, be ready to play in the Super Bowl, he's still stuck with Brady.
He didn't make that decision until he was forced to make it, by the way. And if Bledsoe never gets hurt, Brady maybe never plays.
I got to believe he would at some point. When Bledsoe would be struggling for one game, Brady would come in.
He probably should have played out of camp in retrospect, the things that we know today that have come out about that situation. But that's hindsight.
Yeah.
Speaking of quarterback situations and teams that don't know what to do about them, the Browns, I think, if they start, and I'll say his name, I don't like saying his name, Deshaun Watson, they're nuts. They should cut Deshaun Watson and play Shadur Sanders based exactly on your theory. They need to find out about Shadur Sanders and maybe draft a quarterback next year if they don't have a quarterback.
Yes and no.
Deshaun Watson's going to be a free agent, and they are not signing him to another big contract.
Yeah, yes and no, because Deshaun Watson, I can't see Cleveland signing him next year unless Deshaun Watson would take very low quarterback money. If they wanted him back and he was willing to take low quarterback money, if no one else was going to invest in Deshaun Watson, yeah, 100%. I agree with you completely. But Shadur Sanders might not be ready to start. You know, he's a developmental quarterback. He was the third stringer last year. Let him be a backup quarterback this year. Cleveland's not going to be very good. They're probably going to be in position to draft one of the good college quarterbacks next year. So what you do, start the season with Deshaun Watson. If he's struggling, then you go to Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, let them play. And if neither Sanders or Gabriel show you they're that good, then you draft a quarterback coming out of college next year. But maybe Sanders and Gabriel start putting it together. And then you could stick with them going forward the following year. But I agree with you with Deshaun Watson. He doesn't have a future in Cleveland, and they're not ready to win right now. But with that said, Keith, once again, you're being generous with other people's money. Okay, they're paying the one guy $46 million a year, whatever. You don't just cut a guy and give him that money.
He's giving you nothing for 4 years. He's giving you nothing on that contract so far.
So let him give you something for 1 year. Get a little bit back on your money.
To me, like you said, he has no future in this organization. I move on from him now. Find out if I got anything else before I go into next year's draft.
You got to pay him. That's the problem. Since you're paying him all that money.
Cheers.
I'll make him a backup then, but Shadur Sanders isn't ready to start.
Move on. How about the Jets quarterback situation? Interesting. They got a three-way battle.
Not really a mess. I take that back. Geno Smith is the ultimate bridge quarterback. Don't even talk to me about Geno Smith being the quarterback next year. No way. I like the Jets taking a flyer on Cade Klubnik in the fourth round. It was his second selection in the fourth round. They could afford to take a flyer. What was he, like 138th player picked overall?
Fourth round, yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, with Cade Klubnik is going to get a chance to play at some point this year. If Cade Klubnik plays great, wow, you could maybe move forward with him as your starter. Because let's remember the year before last at Clemson, he was very highly touted, very highly. And then they just had a terrible year last year, Clemson, and he had a poor year. So his stock dropped dramatically. So you could take a fly on Cade Klubnik. At some point, he's going to play because the Jets are going to be bad this year. So they're not going to ride Geno Smith out for each game.
Brady Cook or Zappy stays on that roster.
No.
One of them's got to stay on the roster on the practice squad. One of them. Which one you keep?
I like to carry three quarterbacks. That's me, in the active roster.
Well, one of them's going to be out. Which one?
Cook, he struggled last year when he played. Come on. And having Bailey Zappe, he's been around. I feel comfortable with Zappe as my third string quarterback. In an emergency, Zappe can play. And he's competent in that type of role.
Fair. What else did I want to talk about here today? The fight is the NFL. You like these squad practices where
No.
like the Eagles, and you see fights all over the place.
Fighting, Keith. That's
Fights everywhere.
They're fighting.
Every camp they've had fights this week. It looks like Eagles and Patriots had it. The Giants had it. The Cowboys, and who was a Cowboy? They got fined.
So which guys are fighting? Which guys are fighting? If it's your starters, I'd be upset. If it's the guys just trying to make the team, they're a little hyped up or whatever. They're
fighting for jobs.
The coaches extra hard. Yeah, the guys who are fighting for jobs, I could tolerate it just a little more. But the coaches let the players know you fight during a game, you're getting kicked out. Don't do anything dumb, in that sense. And they're having these scrimmages in the heat, they get a bit irritated, whatever. And
you get injuries.
Taken, the officiating is probably a little lax.
You're more likely to get a guy hurt, Higgins for the Texans. You talk about the Texans. Higgins getting hurt this week, and they're going to lose a whole season out of him. He was developing into a pretty good wide receiver. That's a big loss for them. And talk I've heard the last couple of days about the Hopkins maybe returning to Texans. I don't think he's got anything left myself, but it'd be interesting.
DeAndre
Hopkins.
Wow. I mean, talk about a guy who's a little long in the tooth. But
there's not much left there.
I think future Hall of Famer.
Hey, isn't he coaching? Isn't he coaching in college now? He's coaching.
Yeah, I mean, his career. Talk about a career. I don't want to say that faded out little by little by little. But look, if OBJ could come back to the Giants, then Hopkins can, latch on with back to the Texans if he wanted to.
He probably could, for sure. And A.J. Brown had a reunion with his former Eagle teammates, and including a little awkward exchange yesterday or the day before with Jalen Hurts, where they kind of met at midfield and gave a little man hug. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any love lost there. And they had a fight in camp this week, too.
No, you know what I think it was? I think the way the Eagle offense was run, and it was real frustrating to A.J. Brown. When you're a big-time weapon the way A.J. Brown is, you're not happy in certain offenses because you want the big play, the potential of the big play. And the Eagles, between Goddard, Devontae Smith, I mean, they would spread the ball around. And Saquon Barkley, to have that type of running game with him. So sometimes there's so much talent on a team, the greatest players aren't happy with the great amount of talent because it diminishes them. I mean, they want to win. Don't get me wrong. A.J. Brown wants to win. I mean, that's important to him. I'm not saying it's not. But somehow, when you're not the go-to guy all the time, it's hard. It's hard
to lose terribly selfless, though.
Young head.
That's not terribly selfless to say I want to win, but I want mine too.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah, I used to read books, for example. A baseball player would say like this: I don't care if I never get a hit as long as we win. Well, if you don't get a hit, you're going to be out of the big leagues.
Well, you're not going to win either.
I mean, I like what I read about it. Another player, another time, he said, I'd rather go 4 for 4 and lose than 0 for 4 and win. He was being honest. Now, because you hold on to your job by individual.
That sounds like Pete Rose, by the way.
No. You hold on to your job by individual performance. I don't remember the player's name, by the way. If you're a great player, you can afford to have a diminished game where your stats are really low and put the team ahead of yourself by given game, but not by given season. You don't want an attitude where all your catches are down and you go from one of the top receivers in the NFL to being rated like the 20th. I'm just throwing a number out there. But because your team wins, you fall all the way down the depth chart. Players don't really want that. I hate to say it. I mean, you're goody, Keith. Oh, you win. That's all that matters. Individual performance doesn't mean a thing.
That's all that matters. To me, as a fan,
I don't care
if Aaron Judge never hits a home run. I would not forget contract time. No, but as a fan, all I care about is winning. I don't care about guys' stats. I could care less. And if as a player, yes, I want to contribute. Yes, because I don't have a job if I don't.
They get a new host for you, a new co-host to work with me, and our ratings shoot sky high. You're
I'd
going
be
to
happy
feel a
for you,
little
Jack.
awkward, or you're going to be out of a job. You're going
I'd
to
be
feel a
happy
little
for you.
awkward. I mean, even though I'll have your back, you'll feel a little.
Oh, yeah.
You'll feel the heat a little bit.
Kidding me? I feel myself being pushed on the tracks right now by you. Are you kidding me? That's Chris Gott here. He thinks Philip Rivers signing was misunderstood. He wasn't brought back to be great. He was brought back to help the team that had gone sideways.
Yeah, I agreed. Absolutely. No. Phil Rivers was brought back to kind of steady the Indianapolis Colts ship. It was a desperation move, but Philip Rivers is a classic case of a great player. Okay, and he was a great quarterback, and I think he's going to wind up in the Hall of Fame, even though he never went to a Super Bowl. Even though he's not the same player, what's left of him is as good as you're going to be able to get elsewhere at that point.
That was pretty bad, by the way, what they got. It was not good play. Guys got all amped up about Philip Rivers. He couldn't throw the ball 10 yards.
Who's getting amped up? No.
Not you. People got amped up after he came back and had a win.
We were amped up by the entertainment aspect. Like, I'm giving you an example of who has something left. Big name. I mean, he might not have that much left. I don't mean it that way. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not the player he was. Not even close to that. But Aaron Rodgers was so great in his prime. What's left of Aaron Rodgers is still a competitive quarterback.
But he's been in the league and hasn't left the league. I wouldn't compare him to the Philip Rivers comeback, because Rivers came back and was out of shape and hadn't played football in over a year.
Aaron Donald coming up a 2-year layoff. He's not going to be the same player.
These guys risk a lot of injury, by the way.
He won't be the same player, but he could still be a good player. Okay, not the player he was, but still be a good player, the type of player you want out there.
Doesn't matter why you come back, though. I don't think Aaron Donald and Philip Rivers came back for the same reasons. I've read a lot of chatter that Philip Rivers came back because of the insurance. He needed health insurance, and that's one of the reasons he came back that year.
I'm a little confused. I mean, didn't he make enough money to pay for his own health insurance?
But I don't understand the story either, but that's one of the reasons he's got like 10 kids or something. So
Wait, but how long did he plan to play for to be on that health insurance? I mean, now that he's not playing, I mean, he's got to have health insurance as a retired player, I think.
He does, but I don't think his family does. I think you get more. You get better. Again, I've had guys on the show.
It's 3 years after you retire, something like that.
And a lot of ex-players have had to fight.
And the 3 years might start all over again now.
Talk to Del Williams, who used to play with the Dolphins and the 49ers, about the NFL's healthcare system for foreign players. He's been suing them for about 30 years, trying to get money for injuries he incurred while playing. Anyway,
unfortunate. Yeah,
it is unfortunate. The billions of dollars being made in this industry, they should be able to take care of players a little bit better. Before I leave the NFL, something that affects the NFL is a ruling from the NCAA. As we know, earlier this spring, the NCAA instituted a new eligibility requirement, requirement's a good word. There's not going to be any more 8-year players and suing for 8 years. You got 5 years to play 5 seasons after your high school class graduates. Well, a bunch of players who finished their 4th year of eligibility last year filed suit to get a 5th year of eligibility. 16 of them were on NFL rosters at the time, and there's still 3 or 4 guys on NFL rosters today. In fact, Indiana's brought back a guy who used up his eligibility last year, one of their best pass rushers. This team, and they could beat, and we talked about this before the show. They could have a NFL contract, guaranteed money, and if they get cut, they can go back to whatever school. Actually, they'd go back into the portal. 32 players have already put themselves in the portal to potentially play in the NCAA this year. It's disruptive to the college game. The NCAA can't get out of their own way. Every ruling they have goes to court, and some court says, nope, you can't do that. The players are running the show in the NCAA, and it's ridiculous.
Well, it's about time, actually. The NCAA, they took such advantage of players over the years. Player needed an emergency root canal. And if he
Ridiculous.
went to get it, if his coach took him to get it, the player would lose his eligibility. That's how ridiculous,
So we went but we went all the way from not being able to get a pizza or a plane ticket or a root canal to making millions of dollars.
Exactly. These kids would be in poverty and they would need a few dollars for medical care. They couldn't get it or whatever. Yeah.
Jack,
and the college game too, you don't have 4-year starters who are elite players anymore. The mediocre players play for 4 years. The average players play for 4 years. Money. But the ones that are going to get drafted, they don't play for the 4 years, hardly anymore. There are not many of them around.
So you think the players, it was okay to go from not being able to be given a plane ticket or a pizza or a root canal to making millions of dollars? That's quite a leap.
It's fine. Let them make the money when they can. The money's got to go somewhere. If someone's making it, why should it line the NCAA's pockets?
So amateurism is dead in this country entirely.
Yeah, of course.
How about Golden Gloves? Should those guys be able to make money?
It's been hypocritical a while. Just look at the Olympics.
That's my question.
Certain sports, even traditionally, basketball used to take the college players only, a lot of years ago. But the other nations would have their best players, period, who were their professionals. I don't
need another professional football league. I've got one that's just fine. I don't need 2 professional football leagues, and that's what I've got now. One on Saturday, one on Sunday. That's not fun. I like the atmosphere of college.
League you're talking about.
I'm talking about the NCAA.
Keith, if I were you, I would relax. Put on the Canadian Football League and just chill out and watch.
Now you just gave Chris. You just gave Chris ammunition. He just gave Chris ammunition to talk about the.
Listen, Mac used to build up semi-pro football on this show.
He did. Yeah. Listen, I'm still a college football fan. As long as the energy is like it is on Saturdays, it's so much different than Sundays. The game atmospheres, the campus atmospheres.
And with the playoff format, college football is in a good place. There's a tremendous interest in college football because of the playoff format. No one cares about bowl games anymore as far as the elite teams go. There are bowl games all over the place. Bowl games are good for the teams not contending for the national championship. They get like a consolation prize. Well, I went to one last year. I went to the Boca Raton Bowl. I saw Louisville play Toledo. It was a really good game. Neither team was a threat to win the national championship, but for those universities, the game was great. They got on ESPN, the students got to travel to Florida, etc. That was great for college football, games like that.
And you'll feel the same way when they get to 24.
No one cares about the Orange Bowl, the Rose Bowl, etc. They care about the national championship now, the positioning for all that.
Right,
that's great.
And those bowl games historically decided that national champion. Now it's irrelevant.
Were the most boring thing on New Year's Day.
That's not true. I saw
Day to me was so boring watching those games.
Was it?
And then you had a bunch of writers decide who the national champion was, and then you get arguing left and right who deserved it. Now they play it out. Now we argue about who the 12th best team in the country is when the playoff teams get announced. That's what we argue about, not who's best. I was for the playoff, and the playoff has not worked out the way I or a lot of other people thought it would. They have to work the kinks out. It's not easy at all. Notre Dame missed the cut last year. That kind of surprised me.
Yeah, and then they put in a rule just for Notre Dame that if they're in the top 12, teams will automatically be in. Just for Notre Dame. They're the only team that applies to. You can't keep tweaking things by putting in special rules for one program and adding more teams to the playoff over and over. We're going to go to 24. You're going to feel the same way when 24 teams, the 24th best team in the country is playing for the national championship.
There's a question here. Minor league baseball on drafted free agents still making minimum wage. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know on the lower levels of the minor leagues where basically they have undrafted players, the conditions in the past were really bad. A lot of players would be cramped in rooms, etc. I hope that's all improved.
Single A, they'll live with like host families a lot of times. They do, because we had single A here in the Tri-Cities for a long time. The Valley Cats were a Houston Astros farm team, and there would be families that would put up those kids when they were here to play baseball. They were making like $2,000 a month. Minor
league baseball is great. A great thing to go to. It's a lot of fun. It's relaxing. It's have you seen the Hudson Valley Renegades play, Keith?
I've seen them play the Tri-City Valley Cats. Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. There you go. I mean,
yeah, I have. They play in the same. Well, they played in the same league.
One thing about minor league baseball is standings don't mean much. I mean, very few people care the positioning of the team per se. You're kind of watching for love of game.
We're actually going to a AA game tomorrow in Connecticut, in Hartford. We're going out to my stepson and his wife's place to stay overnight. And we're going to, I don't know who, it's a Colorado Rockies AA team. And they're playing the Yankees farm team, actually.
Oh, cool.
So I was told I couldn't wear my Yankee gear, but I am. So he's a Red Sox fan. Mm-hmm. But I'll wear it. Since we're on baseball, look at 9 teams, and parity is fine, but when all the teams stink, is that what we want? There's 9 teams.
The American League now.
American League is awful. There's 9 teams competing for 3 wild card spots within 3 games of a wild card spot, and all but 2 of them are under 500. All but 2 of them. The 2 teams tied for the 3rd are now 2 games under 500. That doesn't even Astros.
The math tells you you're going to get something in that vicinity because the way baseball is set up, there are 3 divisions in the American League and 3 in the National League, 5 teams each division. So the 3 division winners become irrelevant as far as the wild card race goes. So it's then the next 3 teams with the best record. And they're not going to be that much over 500 in any year. I mean, your third wild card team, you'd think would go something like 85 and 77, 86 and 76 when all is said and done. And
10 games over 500 is not 3 games under 500.
In a way, Keith, it might be parity that the teams are so evenly matched. That's why the records are mediocre. It might not be that the teams are mediocre. It might be that there's such great parity involved. But it's fun trying to get the last position. Keith, we're in the baseball and any sport is the hope business. You want your team to have a chance of making the playoffs. Now, sometimes things just work out a certain way. And this year in the American League, it's working out that the teams are really mediocre. They're hovering around 500, a little below for that 3rd and final wild card spot. And you have a bunch of teams who are in contention. So teams that looked out of it early in the year, take the Toronto Blue Jays, for example. They came within a whisper of winning the World Series. They've had a World Series meltdown from last year, a real letdown. And they were terrible this year. And our mindset, Keith, was the Blue Jays are not going back to the World Series. This year's been a failure, blah, 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 blah. And now we're looking, they're a half game out of the 3rd wild card spot. And I'm going to tell you.
3 games under 500. 3 games under 500.
But I'm going to tell you this. If the Blue Jays get in the playoffs, no matter what their record is, they're dangerous with their personnel. All of a sudden, a team can put it together. Look at the Red Sox for 1 month, Keith. For 1 month. For 1 month, they were the best team in baseball. And I'm going to tell you something. During that month, if they were in the playoffs, they would have beaten every team in Major League Baseball in that month because they were better than anyone in that month.
They were playing other teams in the American League that were terrible. They weren't playing playoff teams every week.
Come back down to earth. Whoever's playing best come playoff time at that moment is going to win their games. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I don't want to. I'm not saying it's a crapshoot. I hate when people talk like that. It's not. Look, the Dodgers the last couple of years, I think they were the best team in baseball, and they did win the World Series. But then again, the Dodgers did struggle last year. Were they really a better team than the Blue Jays, or did they just happen to beat them, in the series? Got a little fortunate when the Dodgers were nearly done in that series. I mean, I could point out a couple of, instances where they easily could have lost it. Easily.
They're the best team in baseball today, but they don't have the best record. I'm not a big fan of parity. I'm okay with really good teams and really bad teams. To be sitting here, if I'm a Seattle Mariner fan, they brought up their number one prospect, by the way, Cade Anderson. I got that name right, I think. Cade Anderson. Yeah, Cade Anderson. He's going to pitch this weekend. They're 8 games under 500 and 3 games out of the wild card.
You know what I hate about parity, Keith? We have 30 teams. Some cities should be more entitled to have a baseball team than others because they have a lot more fans, to support their team. But so that the cities who have teams are fortunate to have it. Be creative. Look, the Milwaukee Brewers have, I believe, the best record in baseball at this moment. The Milwaukee Brewers are a small market team, but they've had really good records the last several years.
19th highest payroll in baseball.
They are a small market team. The team with the best record in the American League, the Tampa Bay Rays, are a small market team. Now, if the season ended today, both those teams are capable of going to the World Series. They're very capable of doing that. They just have to play well.
So doesn't this defeat the entire argument of why we're going to have a lockout, that we need to have salary caps and everything else? This defeats the argument that we need salary caps. I don't know what
the owner's book say. It's easy to talk about other people's money. If the owners really aren't making money here,
they are making money. Every one of these teams is making money, even the teams that are.
What is the purpose? Why do you think the owners are pushing for lockout?
Because they want to protect themselves from themselves. Yes, they don't want to spend money. My point is, the Brewers and the Rays prove to you that you don't have to have a top 10 payroll. The Brewers are the 19th highest payroll in baseball. And as you said, they've got as much a chance of winning the World Series as anybody. You don't have to have a $500 million payroll to compete.
But with that said, it does help. It does help. Let's face it.
Sure, it helps. But again, the owners are going to lock the players out to protect themselves from their own insanity. They're the ones who have caused this.
Well, that happens all the time. Look at these free agent signings. We get carried away at the moment, Keith. At the moment. We don't think long term. A case in point would be when Juan Soto was a free agent. We want it so badly. If you were a Yankee fan or a fan of another franchise, you want it so badly for your team to sign Juan Soto because he was a superstar and still is, you can argue. We weren't thinking 15 years. Are you out of your bleeping mind to sign a player for 15 years until he's age 41? It makes no sense. But you're partly at fault, Keith, here with that attitude. I'll give you an example.
I never paid a guy.
Sign a guy to a 10-year contract.
I never said that.
Yeah, if he gives you 6-7 good years, that's fine. You be ready to eat the last 3 years.
That's a cost of doing business, I said, yes. But that's the cost of doing business today.
But Keith, those last 3 years that you're eating his so-called contract, now the owners can't invest in other players the same way because it's straining your budget.
So we should restrict, and that's part of this. The owner's offer, by the way, isn't just a salary cap, but there's also a salary floor. And there's also a restriction on individual contracts. You couldn't sign a free agent for more than 4 years. 4 years and like $240 million. That's it.
Keith, look at all these long-term contracts. That's part of the problem here in how bad they usually turn out. I mentioned a great player the other day when we were talking about on Monday, Mike Trout. Mike Trout, a great player, future Hall of Famer. The Angels signed him to, what was it, a 10 or 12-year deal?
12 years,
12-year deal. It runs through the year 2030 now. Mike Trout's just the shell of the player he was. Could he still be a productive player? Yeah, but he's no longer a star. He's no longer worth the $35, $36 million a year he's getting. So it turned out to be a bad signing for the Angels. On reflection, they would have been better off if Mike Trout just went elsewhere.
I would argue that they draw a lot more people to come see Mike Trout than if Mike Trout wasn't there playing for that money. So I think they are getting a return on that money. I don't think they're drawing
that many people now when Mike Trout plays. But
imagine if he wasn't there. Imagine if he wasn't there. There wouldn't be anybody in that stadium.
Well, we could say that about Ohtani. Ohtani was a draw when he played for the Angels or the Dodgers or whatever. I get all that. Certain players are legacy players. I can understand you overpay a little. Giving Judge a 9-year contract, I would have done it because he's a legacy player. But from a strictly a baseball perspective, I wasn't crazy about giving any guy a 9-year player. Look, when you have Derek Jeter, he's 25 years old. Yankees signed him to a 10-year contract from age 25 to 35. I'm okay with that because Derek Jeter was a great player, 25. You have to figure he's going to play well up to about the age of 35. This isn't age 40. This is age 35. And it worked out. $189 million he signed at the time for 10 years. But most cases, you don't do it. It's foolish.
A lot of teams have done that.
Age 40, 41.
A lot of teams have done that with their young stars. More of them, not the overwhelming majority, but a lot of teams, Connor Griffin, I think in Pittsburgh and some guys like that have signed long-term deals. And I don't want them coming back to the table 2 years from now saying I'm underpaid. We took care of you.
Players generally seldom do that. It happens in the NFL a lot. It doesn't happen in Major League Baseball. No, it really doesn't happen.
It's constantly guys saying they're underpaid. They're underpaid. They signed up.
They might be saying it, but there's no leverage and teams don't budge. Bryce Harper, he signed a 13-year, $330 million contract.
100% guaranteed.
Yeah. Then what did you say?
100% guaranteed as well.
Right. But then a few years into the contract, he said he wants to play longer. He didn't have to renegotiate. He asked for an extension because he wants to play 3-4 more years in addition. But he had something like 6-7 years left on his contract.
Yeah.
And he also tried to give an example. He said, look what the Kansas City Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. One had nothing to do with the other. I mean, come on.
If I give you $336 million, it probably ought to be a lifetime contract anyway, not 10 years. But I don't want to restrict guys' earnings. I don't want to restrict anything with earnings. That's a slippery slope. I don't want that. I don't want guys. You can only sign for 5 years and $30 million. That's all you can do.
That's an idea. You want to know something? That's an idea. If they could maybe force a cap on the amount of years.
They've done that. That's what they're trying to do.
Right. I can understand like Major League Baseball could maybe do 8 years. Look, the president of the United States, whoever it's going to be, only gets 4 years. And then another 4 years, and then I'm not even talking about term limits or Congress. What do they get? 2 years. The Senate gets 6 years. I mean, there's caps on things.
5
Maybe
years.
There should be caps on a major league contract. I'm not against that necessarily. Like maybe 8 years, and that's it. That's the max.
So they put in their offer to the Players Association, 5 year for a free agent, a true free agent. I'm signing a guy from Kansas City, 5 years. That's a maximum 5 years. If you're signing your own free agent, 6 years. That's it. That's what they want. The players are never going for this. There won't be a baseball season next year.
I'm not so against what the owners are doing.
There won't be a baseball season. If they are digging their heels here on this, there's not going to be a baseball season next year.
But keep this in mind, Keith. Unlike the NFL, baseball players' money is guaranteed. All the money is guaranteed. In the NFL, it isn't. That's my beef with the NFL. Okay? That's why I'm more sympathetic to NFL players. If your money isn't guaranteed, I don't want to hear you have a contract. As far as I'm concerned, if money's not guaranteed, you don't have a contract. Anything non-guaranteed is not like having a contract. So I'm sympathetic towards players with non-guaranteed money. Vita Vea, you were going to mention him.
I forgot Vita Vea, yes.
Right. He just signed with Tampa Bay 1 year, $30 million or so. I think most of it is guaranteed for the one season. He had $17 million on his deal left. None of it was guaranteed, and Vita Vea was kind of like holding out. And you were saying, Keith, well, a contract is a contract. He should be there working out with the team.
When wasn't it? When isn't a contract
but if
a contract?
It's non-guaranteed, he could get injured and not get a penny.
Then don't put your name. Don't sign your name to the bottom of that contract then. You signed a legal binding document in my mind.
Okay, but he did show up at camp, but he decides I'm not practicing. And he's waiting for the games to be played. In any event, if you're a team, especially you have a star player who's been great for your franchise, guarantee him his darn money for that year. I'm not saying how much to pay him. Give him what you think is fair market value. But
Jack, I'm not arguing.
Money is the key thing.
I'm not arguing against guaranteed money. I want players to get whatever they can get. I'm all for that. But once you've signed a contract for something else, then you need to honor that contract. And when your contract comes up, then you can negotiate differently.
What happens if the contract? Wait. If a guy signs for a lot of years at ridiculously low money, I'm not going to tell him play 7-8 more years, and then we're going to take a look at your contract.
Don't sign a contract that long. Don't sign a contract that long. Sign for 1 year. You can renegotiate every year.
So you mean to tell me, okay, case in point, if Aaron Judge had a wacky agent who made him sign a 17-year deal, $1 million a year from the Yankees. A couple years into that, no, you hear me out, Keith. You hear me out. And he had 15 years left on that contract, basically the rest of his career. He should play for $1 million a year, and he should be told a contract is a contract. You sign it, you honor it.
If the team wants to hold him to it, then yes.
So you support the team.
It's a ridiculous comparison because that would never happen anyway.
No, it's not ridiculous.
It would never happen.
A contract is a contract, I could tell you.
That's fair. The team is probably going to offer him more at some point, but if the team wants to do it, that's fine.
They're coming off a 62 home run season. The guy is making $1 million a year for the next 6 years.
He should fire his agent.
No. The team figures they get a bargain. You could get another Charlie Finley type owner.
Should fire his agent.
Make him play for that money, telling him a contract is a contract based on principle. Where you're not going to renegotiate. You would support the team.
Yes, but it's not a fair. Jack, that's not even a fair. That's not even a fair question because that would never happen. He'd go somewhere else and play for a lot more money.
Okay, if I'm making 12 times the amount of money you are because you signed a long-term deal, you're not going to complain about it?
No, I wouldn't. No, I'm not. This isn't Mike and the Mad Dog here where this is Jack and Keith. I know you're making a lot more than me. Doesn't matter. Yeah. I talked to the network about this, I guess.
A contract's a contract, they'll tell you.
Listen, and again, it's tough because we're comparing baseball and football, and we really can't because, right? I get that.
No, but I see the point. But Keith, you want to know something? I'm kind of supportive of the owners not having a cap for teams, how much money owners can pay out, but maybe capping the amount of years a free agent could sign for. They do it like in the NBA. You maybe, if you sign with your own team, you can get a little more money because you have an extra year too. You could sign a long-term deal with your own team as opposed to going elsewhere. I kind of like that. I really do.
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Never. Players are never going to agree to this. There'll be no baseball next year if they stick to this. None. That's what's going to happen.
If they do it at 8 years for your own team, 7 years elsewhere, I'm actually supportive of that.
Here's the thing. They won't put it in the collective bargaining ever. But if owners want to, here's the problem. If owners wanted to rein in salaries and rein in the contracts in general, shorter contracts, and they went out and did that, then the players are going to sue them for collusion. That's what's happened every time the owners have tried to rein themselves in without doing it through collective bargaining.
Well, the owners have to meet and decide on a plan, what they're going to propose. That's not collusion. Just like the players' union meets and talks, what their demands are. The owners can do the same thing, or sure.
Well, again, I don't disagree. If the owner wants to pay you less money, again, if the Yankees decided that Aaron Judge's contract was up and you're worth $1 million,
if someone is a free agent and the owners all get together and decide that they're not bidding on that free agent, that's collusion. Okay, there's a big difference involved. I used to hear that with Colin Kaepernick. Oh, the owners collusion against him. It wasn't collusion. Collusion is if the owners are talking amongst themselves.
Individual players.
Don't touch this guy.
So what about, you're talking about individual cases. So let's just say that this 5-year max doesn't pass and doesn't go into collective bargaining. But then the owners say, we're not offering anybody more than 5 years. We're not going to do it, regardless whether it's in the CBA or not. Is that still collusion?
No, that's collusion. Once if they're able to offer players 7 years, for example, and the owners get together and decide quietly they have an agreement, they're not going to offer more than 5, even though they can offer 7. They have an understanding amongst themselves. That's collusion. Yeah.
And what if they did it without talking about it?
No, I mean, it would be obvious. Look, there have been cases of collusion before.
Oh, the players got paid millions and millions of dollars in the 80s when the owners colluded against the players. So, again,
and if the owners were in collusion, they wouldn't be offering all these money to free agents as is. Keep that in mind. It just takes one owner to break ranks.
My problem with the whole thing is with the owners because they created the mess themselves. They created this mess. If they think salaries are out of control and the length of contracts are out of control, they created it. Nobody else.
It's a free enterprise system.
I'm okay with it.
A free agent, there's competitive bidding for him. I don't know. Does that mean they're creating a problem? They want to win. They bid. But they can't be conservative. When Juan Soto became a free agent, the Yankees couldn't just say, we're offering you an 8-year contract, because if they did, they knew they'd lose them. So they kept going higher, but the Mets, outbid them at the end.
That's fine. And I'm all for the players getting everything they can get. I don't want these caps of any kind. I really don't want any of them. But the owners can't sit here and cry poverty. And when they created the mess themselves, they created the mess by doing exactly what you just said. I don't have to go up and up and up. I can say I'm going this far.
It's going to be a problem in the NFL soon. Again, I'm going to tell you why, Keith. Because every time a big-time free agent signs a record-setting deal, he sets the bar higher. Then the next guy got to get just a little more, and it keeps going up and up and up. So at some point, the owners are going to want to stop. But, the NBA has no problem. They have this lucrative TV deal. Business is thriving. Players are making a fortune. So all's happy in the NBA for now.
Well, all the teams and all the players are making money in all three sports, so I don't think that's a problem anywhere.
Keith, Keith, I'm a little surprised you didn't talk about the WNBA today at all.
I was going to, but we'll talk about it Monday. Give us a little boxing update before we have to run.
Yeah, tomorrow night there's a match of note, welterweight contest. Teofimo Lopez against Rally Romero. Rally Romero in his last fight, over a year ago, beat Ryan Garcia and beat him decisively. Lopez coming off of a loss to Shakur Stevenson. Lopez, I think, should win the fight on points, but there's a question of how much Lopez might have left. There's that little bit of doubt, but if both guys are in reasonable form, Lopez should win the fight.
What about Fury and Joshua? Any traction?
Tyson Fury. It looks like it's going to wind up at Madison Square Garden on Friday night. You heard me. Friday night, November 20th. There won't conflict with college football. They want to get the largest audience. The fight really belongs in the UK, but they want to hit the United States office, and to put it on at the UK, there were complications involved. It's a long story to get into. But now there's a lot of petty bickering going back and forth. Who's going to be the official promoter? Joshua's promoter, Matchroom Eddie Hearn. One of his conditions is that Zuffa Boxing, Dana White's group, not be listed as the promoter of the event. So they've got to tie things in. There's so many other little elements I can mention, but they're trying to tie things in. And it's a good heavyweight fight. But it belongs in the UK, not Madison Square Garden. But look, I'll take it. They want to give me the fight in my hometown in New York. I'll take it, but it doesn't belong here.
You'll be there ringside if it's in Madison Square Garden, not in the UK.
If I get credentials, because my Office Boxing News monthly in the UK, they're going to fly in for this fight because it's the Britishers. They're the British publication, but they might credential me based off my name. But they're going to be very tight with press credentials, very, very tight. But we'll see.
If you need somebody to carry your pad and your pencils, let me know. I'll be happy to come down.
Listen, if they credential me, I might be upstairs in the boondocks for this one because I might not have any real writing, responsibility for this one. If my publication, if the editor comes in from the UK, but we'll see.
Good luck with that, and you'll see Jack tomorrow.
November, it's a while off. I get inducted in the New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame 8 days before November 12th. So
you're just a popular guy, Jack.
Yeah, all over the place. Yeah.
Every Hall of Fame imaginable you're in now, for crying out
loud. No, that would only be the second one. Regional. It's the regional one.
Well, you got a lot of years of getting more, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Listen, catch Jack tomorrow on the debate show on the McGrath Podcast Network. I'll be on Sunday morning with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness, and I'll be back this afternoon, actually, with the MLB update. So, guys, we'll see you later. Have a great weekend. And, Jack, I'll see you Monday, Bob, or I'll see you Sunday, actually.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
See you guys.